You think your family's Christmas traditions are weird? Then try keeping a live fish in your bathtub for a week, fasting until you hallucinate golden pigs, or watching Home Alone like it's basically a religious obligation. Welcome to Christmas in Central Europe, where the Visegrad Four countries have turned the holidays into somewhat of a fever dream of bizarre traditions. I'm Jan, this is Prague Pulse, and today we're taking a well-deserved break from politics and exploring how Czechs, Slovaks, Poles, and Hungarians celebrate Christmas. Spoiler, it involves traumatized children, a little bit of domestic violence, and mandatory shots before Christmas Eve dinner actually even begins. And as always, a huge thank you goes to everyone supporting me already on herohero.co/PraguePulse. And now, let's dive in. Let's start with the tradition that actually unites 3 of the 4 V4 countries. Czechia, Slovakia, and Poland all practice the art of keeping a live carp swimming in the family bathtub for several days before Christmas Eve dinner. And yes, you heard me correctly, the family bathroom bathtub basically turns to a swimming pool for a live fish. Here's how it works. Dad brings home a live carp from the Christmas market, usually a few days before December 24th, which is, by the way, the main Christmas day in all of the 4 countries. We don't do December 25th. December 24th is the day. Anyway, the fish gets dumped into the bathtub, which is now obviously off limits for actual bathing, and that in itself leads to some very interesting situation hygiene-wise, but that's for another time. Children immediately form a genuine emotional bonds with the fish. Of course they do. But then Christmas Eve arrives and the kids need to be shooed away from the bathroom while Dad tries his best to dispatch poor fish with a knife or a mallet, usually. So basically the fish that the kids have been playing with for the past week or so suddenly becomes dinner. The peaceful atmosphere of the holidays is all of a sudden broken up by a tiny bit of domestic violence. That is very Central European, if you ask me. Anyway, the original idea of keeping a live fish in the bathtub was actually quite practical. See, carp are literal bottom feeders, so keeping them in clean water was supposed to help flush out the muddy taste of the fish. But the psychological damage that this whole procedure creates in the kids has made it increasingly controversial, of course. Czech supermarkets actually ended live carp sales in 2024 completely, and nearly 70% of Poles now support banning the practice entirely. Hungary, on the other hand, said a big no thanks to the whole bathroom trauma, and instead they served the so-called hallucination, which does sound like a harmless fish soup with hot paprika in it, but in fact the preparation of the soup is actually no less disgusting than the whole bathroom saga in Czechia and Slovakia and Poland, because the hallucination is actually made with fish heads. You heard me. Plus, the soup basically looks like molten lava. Just take a look. But I guess at least Hungarian children don't have to name their dinner first before they eat it. Slovakia stays very much on brand with its Christmas traditions. See, even before Christmas Eve dinner begins, everyone at the table actually needs to take a shot of alcohol. Families in some regions of Slovakia now call this shot radostník. And the name itself screams alcoholism because it literally means the thing that makes you happy. Now, funnily enough, the name radostník was actually traditionally reserved for a type of a huge wedding cake. But now it's basically become code for we'll need this to get through the night. And honestly, they probably do when you think about it, because Slovakia takes Christmas to some genuinely unhinged places, or they used to at least, and the not so distant past actually. For example, things used to get quite crazy on St. Lucy's Day, which is December 13th. See, back in the day, young Slovak women actually would dress up entirely in white, often just wearing bed sheets, dust their faces with flour, and then they would wander house to house, silently sweeping corners with goose wings to rid their homes of evil spirits. Meanwhile, young men would be cracking whips throughout the village to scare away the witches. Yeah, that radostník shot I mentioned, That makes a lot more sense now. In Poland, watching the 1990 classic Home Alone on Christmas Eve is basically mandatory. Over 4 million Poles, which is around 10% of the entire population, now watch it every single December 24th. In 2000, it actually hit 8.9 million viewers, which is nearly 25% of the country. When broadcaster Polsat announced in 2010 that they wouldn't air it for the first time ever, people in Facebook groups protested so much that they actually forced a reversal of the decision. Poles genuinely now say Christmas without Kevin isn't true Christmas. Some theories of why that is cite post-communist escapism, but that's boring. Others think that Poles just simply enjoy watching a child commit violence against home invaders. But don't worry, Poland actually also has normal, real traditions for Christmas. For example, they have 12 mandatory meatless dishes for Christmas Eve dinner. There's this opłatek wafer sharing, and you will often find an extra place at the table for departed souls of the family. But apparently none of that really matters without Kevin McAllister's booby traps, I guess. Poland also cannot decide who brings the Christmas gifts. See, depending on the region you're from, presents can actually arrive from 6 different Central European versions of the Santa. So I guess Polish children must be perpetually confused about the whole logistics of Christmas or whatever. Hungary has a tradition that turns Christmas trees basically into an elaborate heist game. See, the so-called salon-cukor, which are chocolate-covered fondant candies wrapped in shiny, colorful foil, are hung directly on the Christmas tree as decorations, of course. But see, these aren't just for show actually. They're meant to be eaten, and Hungarians consume a lot of it, approximately 1.5 kilos per household during Christmas alone, which totals 3.5 thousand tons nationally every single year across more than 150 different flavors of that chocolate. And here's where it gets really fun. Hungarian children actually develop the skill of secretly eating the salon-cukor from the tree while leaving the wrapper perfectly intact and still hanging on the tree. It's basically like a tiny Ocean's 11 operation where the goal is totally depleting the tree while maintaining plausible deniability at the same time. And by the time the tree comes down, which usually happens after January 6th, most wrappers are empty, but still beautifully hanging from the tree. And then figuring out who stole the sweets becomes a running family joke. Compare this to Czechia and Slovakia, where the so-called baby Jesus, or our version of the Santa, doesn't just bring you the presents. He actually brings and decorates the entire tree, while children are either banished from the room entirely or they're fast asleep. And then the fully lit and fully decorated tree magically appears alongside the gifts when the bell rings to call the children inside the room, which of course raises some very interesting and serious logistical questions, but we won't get into those just now. And we end with a really bizarre one that sounds like something from a cult. See, in Czechia, if children fast the entire day on December 24, which means no food whatsoever, it is said that they will be rewarded with a vision of a golden pig. Yeah, you heard me. And that golden pig is supposed to appear on the wall. And if it does, that's supposed to symbolize wealth and happiness for the entire family in the coming year. Let's be absolutely clear about what I've just said. Czech parents are basically telling their very hungry children, if you suffer enough, you will hallucinate, and that's good. I mean, sure, when hunger strikes, you might indeed start seeing visions. That superstition got actually absolutely immortalized in a 2003 TV commercial for Kofola, which is like the Czech ripoff of Coke, where a father tells his daughter about the golden pig myth while they are trying to illegally cut down a tree for Christmas in a forest. But all of a sudden, a very real wild boar appears and the two end up running for their lives. And that commercial is now so popular in Czechia and Slovakia that it actually gets rebroadcast every single year, although it's now over 20 years old. Now, the golden pig tradition is particularly remarkable in Czechia, of all places, because Czechia is one of Europe's most atheist countries. Czechs will gladly tell you that they don't believe in God, absolutely not, but they'll then absolutely believe a hunger-induced hallucination of a golden pig, which is supposed to bring them fortunes or whatever. So there you have it. Christmas in the Visegrad Four, where traumatizing children with bathtub carp, watching 1990s Macaulay Culkin movies, and starving yourself nearly to death are all now considered basically essential holiday traditions. These countries share so much history and culture, and yet somehow they've ended up with Christmas celebrations that range from slightly concerning to we should probably involve a therapist in all this. If you enjoyed this lighter side of Central European culture, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps me grow and push those videos to a wider audience. And if you really want to support more content like this, check out herohero.co/Prague Pulse. Until next time, may your Christmas be merry, your carp stay alive until it's time, and your golden pig visions be plentiful. I'm Jan, this is Prague Pulse, and happy holidays to all of you.